The Steaky Joe. It's a sloppy Joe with steak. Start off by cutting your vegetables. For me, green peppers and onions are the only thing needed with something like this. So I'm slicing up a little green pepper, but I'm not going to cut small pieces. I want medium-sized, thick pieces, because once it renders down, it becomes a lot smaller. And you can see and this is definitely a treat you will enjoy. Here I'm finalized cutting up the vegetables, a little bit of green pepper, a little bit of onions. Then eventually it's going to go into a saucepan with a little bit of butter and oil. The oil to keep it from sticking, the butter to add a little bit of flavor. And you can see my, not the greatest of cut work right now, cutting up an onion. I came up with this idea a long time ago because traditionally sloppy Joe, as well as manwich, they just use ground beef. And what's ground beef other than ground steak? And here, now that my oil is hot and going, I'm just tossing in a little bit of green peppers and onions and get them up to a nice little cook. Toss in a little bit of seasoning, let them brown. And in the same idea, I'm cutting the bacon, but I'm not cutting it small little pieces. I want nice sized chunks. A sloppy Joe is sloppy, and that's something you're not going to get from little small pieces. For the steak, the easiest way I find is to chill it slightly so it has a little firmness to it. It allows the knife to go through quickly, and I can cut thin slices, because you want long, thin pieces that you can slice into little small bite-sized pieces, of course. So here you can see I'm just literally slicing my steak down. I went through, I didn't show in the video, but I sliced them into smaller pieces, pulled them apart, put them on a plate to get them ready to cook. In a frying pan, first thing you do is toss in the bacon. The bacon's going to add fat, it's going to add oil. Makes it a lot easier to cook the steak, plus it adds flavor to the steak. So get those going under a medium heat. Make sure to break them apart, because of course they're still stuck together slightly. You can see my peppers are cooking down nicely. And of course I'm doing a little magic of video editing from the pan to a plate. Alright, now it's been at least about 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes. The bacon has been cooking. Now is a good time to start tossing in your steak. With your steak thinly sliced, it won't take long for it to cook. So maybe a couple of minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. And here I'm going to go ahead and start mixing it in with the bacon, then add some seasonings. Once it's cooking, add in your seasonings, and let's start on the next process, mixing your sauce. The sauce I use instead of sloppy Joe, I went with a little bit of manwich, which is okay. But to enhance the flavor, I put a little bit of A1 steak sauce in, give it that nice tanginess, a bit of seasoning, and a little bit of honey and light sugar. It'll give it a sweet or tart. It'll hit a lot of the gambit. And trust me, it'll taste good. Once your steak and your bacon has been cooked thoroughly, I tend to drain out all the excess fat. I just don't want it in my food. So I drain the fat, add it back to the pan, add in your green peppers and onions, and start reheating everything up. Let them get to know each other and meld in flavors. Give it a couple of minutes, maybe 3, 4 minutes at a low heat. Once it's nice and hot, then it's time for the fun part, mixing in your sauce. Now you want the sauce thick, but you don't want it incredibly thick, because it's going to reduce down as you cook it. So here I'm adding in, and then I actually went and grabbed a little bit more, added a little bit more sauce to it. And you begin mixing it. Let it meld and cover every square inch. Once that pan is good and hot, it'll start to evaporate. It'll start incorporating. Then it's time to melt your cheeses. For this, I went with mozzarella, cheddar, and then baby Swiss at the end, which you'll see in the video. The flavor is very cheesy, and it's very messy, and it's not little small bite-sized pieces. It's big old hunks of pieces that you taste everything when you bite through it. The steak has been cooked slowly and not incredibly hard, so it falls apart, pull apart. I didn't show me toasting the bread. If I got to show you that, it'll be something wrong in the universe. But toast your bread, add in some of your Steaky Joe. For me, I tend to add a lot of it, and you want that bread toasted so it doesn't go soft and limp. Damn, that looks good. I made one for show and one to eat so that everybody can see how it's made. But I also ate both of them. I'm a fat kid. It tasted really good. And here at the end, baby Swiss. It ain't gonna take it very long. The meat is very hot. Everything is very hot. As you can see, the cheese will melt up by just covering it for a minute. And I know some people say that's a lot of cheese, and it is a lot of cheese. I went with 3 different cheeses just because. But it lends a little more of the tart flavor to go along with your sweet and your tangy and your tart. And it's just a melding is the only way to say it. It's everything mixed together. Anyway, this is an easy recipe. It's an easy sandwich. Instead of using ground beef, use a little bit of thin cut steak. Instead of just using the traditional sauce, spruce the sauce up, give it more impact and more flavor. And yes, this is me eating it. This is me enjoying it. I hope you enjoy this recipe. I hope you make it for your family. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, perhaps subscribe, perhaps tell your friends. And even if you don't want to do that, cook, make your own food, make it something you can enjoy.